I do this work because, we often talk about the risk of, climate change or biological weapons or other disruptive technologies or, nuclear weapons as these big, cataclysmic, worst case scenario things, deaths of hundreds of millions of people, and that is a real risk. But for me, I have to ground it in the fact that those could be, my friends, my family, my community, and that's enough to motivate me to look for ways to reduce that risk as much as possible.
I have a very deep personal connection to the ongoing Korean War and the division of the peninsula. My family is actually one of the thousands of families that have been divided by the ongoing war and division. And so for me, it's a personal familial connection. And then also just as a US citizen, I feel a deep responsibility to push my government, which is the main actor, continuing to militarize the Korean Peninsula, send nuclear armed submarines to the peninsula, and has a real responsibility to engage both the North and South Korean governments to promote diplomacy and to pursue peace.
I grew up in communities that live near nuclear weapons, and my father worked on nuclear ballistic submarines that carries nuclear weapons. So I've grown with knowing about them for a very long time.
This work matters to me first and foremost because nuclear weapons have caused immeasurable harm against so many communities, and I see it as my responsibility to bear witness to the testimony of survivors from Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but as well as those who have suffered as a result of uranium mining or nuclear testing around the world. And the work also matters to me because people deserve to know what's going on with nuclear weapons around the world and in their own countries. They deserve to know the threat that they're under because of nuclear weapons and the decisions being made by their political leaders that impact their safety and security, how much of their tax money is being spent on nuclear weapons. And they deserve to know that a world where we're living under constant threat of nuclear use isn't a world that we have to accept.
I think in the current moment, the challenge that we're really trying to solve is how do we prevent a new and re-emerging arms race?
The problem that really keeps me up at night is the threat of nuclear war. So my work is fundamentally about using open source tools to better understand who has what when it comes to nuclear weapons and why. We spend a lot of time working with journalists to make sure that they're telling the right stories about nuclear weapons, but also talking to policymakers in the hopes that they'll make better decisions about them. One of my students, Decker Evelith, was the first person to find what would turn out to be more than 300 nuclear missile silos being built in the Chinese desert. That is a huge change in our international security environment.
Ploughshares' general support grants enable us to carry out work like our nuclear notebooks, which are the most authoritative open source estimates and analysis of global nuclear arsenals. And we've also been able, over the past year or two, to spend a lot of time scrutinizing, informing the public, and engaging with lawmakers on the US's new program to develop the new Sentinel ICBM. And our effort on that front has really helped inform the public debate on and the oversight efforts of that program. And we were also able this past year to publish a series of articles in the Washington Post on the next nuclear age, which really raised the level of public awareness and understanding of contemporary nuclear issues.
We really see ourselves at Inkstick as doing, in part, as doing movement journalism. We're doing investigative journalism in service of those who have experienced injustice. That's really what we talk about when we talk about movement journalism. Ploughshares was one of the first foundations to take my crazy idea and say, you know what, like, actually, we might give you a little bit of seed money to try that out and see if it works. And I will be forever grateful for that, because that one little spark was what made it possible for me to create this thing that we now have, this thing that is, a truly, operating nonprofit newsroom that is, we were just nominated for 7 Signal Awards. We're very excited about what we've grown into.
A lot of my work focuses on how to gather people who are conducting a lot of the track 2 diplomacy between the United States and China, and bring them together in a way that empowers their work and creates opportunities for cooperation.
Women Cross DMZ organizes a global movement to end the Korean War. We organize U.S. grassroots members. We have over 500 all across the country to advocate to their congressional representatives for Peace on the Korean Peninsula Act, which is a congressional bill calling for a peace agreement and addressing denuclearization efforts in the Korean Peninsula. And we also engage in narrative change and education.
When the war between Israel, the U.S., and Iran started this June, I think we heard about the attacks late Thursday here in the U.S. We were able to pull together an event that Monday that had some really high-level experts, and we were able to invite folks to it, and we had about 500 attendees and thousands more that watched online later. And we asked one of the panelists, Richard Nephew, to write a follow-up piece, and he wrote this piece that speculated that the U.S. might, also bomb Iranian facilities. And then a few days later, the U.S. did, and his piece had 400,000 views because people were coming to look for answers.
We are approaching the expiration of the New START Treaty, which is the last bilateral arms control agreement between Russia and the United States. The coalitions we work with is really going to be focused on making the case that not only should the executive branch be trying everything it can to make sure this treaty doesn't go away, but in the event that it does go away, we have to prepare Congress to be thinking about this issue, because if suddenly this treaty's gone, the proposals to build up the nuclear arsenal and return to kind of this Cold War era buildup is going to be directly in the hands of legislators and members of Congress.
As we get to a point where the only remaining nuclear arms control agreement is set to expire next February, we want to equip the public and policymakers with the understanding of what it is to deploy a certain number of weapons, what it is to have plans to use them, trying to push back on the idea that more nuclear weapons bring more security.
Ploughshares is a change maker ripe for this moment, using their dollars to think about the kind of the long-term sector-wide investments that we need to build capacities to meet not only today's threats, but future threats as well.
The different levels of expertise people are bringing into one space is just incredible. And the ways that we can work together to uplift everybody's expertise in one coordinated way, I think is really what has led to the victories that we have been able to achieve.
Having a network of grantees who are all working together is an incredible difference maker when it comes to us getting our message out and making the case for better policies.
A lot of organizations talk about what it would look like to support early next-gen experts in this space. Ploughshares actually does it.
Young people give me hope, because I do see progress there. I see a much more diverse group of people coming up through the national security space. I see their perspectives taking root.
I have hope for the future, even with the challenges ahead, because I regularly get to meet and encounter brilliant new people in the field and brilliant young people who have seen the challenges ahead and are aware of them. And instead of shying away from them, they've decided to dedicate their futures to solving them.